Welcome to Fast Keto. I'm your host, Ketogenic Girl. I am so excited to have a keto nutritionist that you probably know well, Shawn Mynar, on the show today. She is a nutritional therapy practitioner and host of the Keto for Women show, and she has been teaching women how to do keto safely and effectively, and also the creator of her program, The Fat Burning Female. She is a chocolate-loving, hip-hop dancing, holistic nutritionist obsessed with good food, traveling the world, and helping women find health and happiness. We had so much fun chatting today, and I'm a big fan of Shawn's, and I really enjoy her as a friend as well. And she just makes such a great contribution to the keto community. And we had such a great time today talking about her journey to keto, what her philosophy is with the ketogenic diet, how to approach it in the best way, in her opinion, and also some things that she's learned over the years with keto, some tips that she has for women who are starting out, and so much great info. She made some really great points and shared a lot of great information. So I hope that you guys enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it with Shawn. If you haven't checked out my cookbook yet, it is called Keto Essentials on Amazon, and it is currently 42% off on Amazon. It has over 150 of my favorite keto recipes, all of the most delicious comfort foods that I have made into keto treats, everything from fettuccine alfredo, keto pad thai, my spinach and artichoke dip, cheesecake, brownies, decadent, delicious, healing, and healthy recipes to get you started on keto. And I make them all super simple. All the ingredients you can find at any supermarket. I don't use a lot of hard to find ingredients. I like to be able to make these recipes using ingredients from any supermarket, any grocery store. And there are a few keto products in there that you might want to try at some point, like those weird noodles. But you know what? You can make all keto foods and recipes from my book without having to get any rare and hard to find ingredients. It is called Keto Essentials. It's on Amazon for 42% off. Go and get yourself a copy, and get a copy for everyone you know, because hey, keto is amazing and you know it is. So go check it out, and hope you enjoyed today's episode. A few disclaimers. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice, as I am not a qualified healthcare provider. The information presented on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Ketogenic Girl is not qualified to provide medical advice. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to this podcast. Prior to beginning a ketogenic diet, you should undergo a full health screening with your physician to confirm that a keto diet is suitable for you and to rule out any conditions or contraindications that may pose risks or that are incompatible with the ketogenic diet. A keto diet may or may not be appropriate for you if you have any kind of health condition, whether known to you or unknown. So you must consult your physician to find this out. Anyone under the age of 18 should consult with their physician and their parents or legal guardian. All right. So thanks for being here today, Shawn. It's so fun to get to have you on the podcast for the first time.
I know. So fun to be here. Just friends chatting that happen to be keto as well.
Yes. And to answer your question, I'm really having major avocado withdrawal. Doing my 30-day carnivore trial, it's like all I can think about is avocados and coconut. And this like small amount of 10 to 20 grams, like I would often be around like 20 to 30 grams, but even 10 to 20 grams now of carbs seems like a world of variety and flavor and color.
Yeah. I mean, your meals look great. I'm not going to lie. They look really, really good. But I would be dying for vegetables right now, or just like something crunchy or something.
I know, texture.
Yeah, texture. And, I'm such a fan of like giant amounts of vegetables, which if people know me, they know that about me, even on a keto diet. So yeah, I just really wanted to ask that question. That was like the first thing I needed to talk to you about was like, are you missing vegetables? Because I would be dying if I were you.
You know what? I am missing them I'm not having like cravings though, which is really interesting to me because I used to always have like cravings. I'm not having any cravings. And I remember I heard Ted Naiman say once that a lot of times cravings sometimes can be like, especially like I would sometimes crave like cheesy, like salt or cheese with salt or like chocolate. Is like sometimes those are actually cravings for like protein. And so people's cravings go away on carnivore. And I am like, I've been upping my protein and playing with that. And I haven't been having any cravings, but I just like miss the silkiness and texture of avocado. I know some people don't like the texture of avocado, but I miss it. And like just the color and the variety that I'm going to be appreciating so much. Even just like last night, I was like, I really want to make shirataki noodles. I'm like, but I can't. So I'm like making this little list of like, it's giving me a lot of recipe ideas, which is a good thing. Yeah.
How many days left do you have?
About like 2 weeks left.
Okay.
It's actually a long time. Like I think 30 days is longer than I thought. But when I did the 7 days, like so many people were just like, well, what's 7 days? How much can you really learn about it in 7 days? And most of those people are carnivore advocates. Like I know where they were coming from. And I was like, yeah, 7 days, like it can be good to measure certain things. But if I really want to understand it, maybe 2 weeks to a month. So yeah.
I can't wait to hear like your overall take after 30 days. I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
Yes. Yeah. It was like I have to do an entire episode just on that so I can dish about it. But this episode is all about you. So I want to talk all about you. And for anyone who may not be familiar with you yet, if you could start off just by telling you a little bit about your background and what you do in the keto space.
Of course. Yeah. So my name is Shawn Mynar. I live in Boulder, Colorado, where I am a nutritionist, although my whole business is online, so I don't have to be in Boulder to work, but I choose to be in Boulder because it's the most amazing place ever. Well, I guess I got into the overall nutrition space first through my own health journey, which is the case for most of us here that are like practitioners or even naturopaths or anything like that. Most of us come to this place because we had our own issues that we managed to figure out, and now we want to share it with everybody. And that's exactly what happened with me. First, it was a diagnosis of ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disease, back in 2008. And just, super long story short, ended up after a few years of taking medication, just not being willing to just take medication anymore and not being willing to just take my doctor's advice that there was nothing I could do to my diet or lifestyle or anything that would change the outcome of this. So I took it upon myself to do some research on good old Dr. Google and found that actually wasn't true, that there were plenty of cases of people with autoimmune disease being able to reverse and put their disease into remission by making changes to their diet and their lifestyle and things like that. So that led me into paleo style diet, or like a real food ancestral diet, for several years. Did wonders for my health, put my autoimmune disease for the most part into remission. There, I did still have some flare-ups, but made a huge difference. And then within that time, that's when I decided, okay, nutrition, I got to share this with the world. I need to get more education and make this my living because this is my passion. For sure. And so went through that whole process and became a nutritional therapy practitioner. Along that time, I started getting sick again. And once I started, I was already doing so many things, quote unquote, right, as far as, eating this real organic whole foods diet, exercising regularly, taking care of my body, stress management, all this stuff, but still getting sicker and sicker. Again, very long story short, I ended up getting sick because I was living in a home with toxic mold. And that made me incredibly sick. It made my body really inflamed to try to handle that situation. And in the process, I made me develop brain fog, word recollection issues. I gained weight unexpectedly or just with no explanation, joint pain, just intense fatigue to the point where I couldn't get out of bed some days. So just all these things that, again, led me to dig even deeper into my health and what was going on with my body. And, I got to a point where I figured all this out. I was going through the protocol, and it just made sense to me at that time, knowing what I knew about keto and being a nutritionist, that at least those symptoms could be somewhat helped in the process of healing if I went keto, but if I went into this high fat, low carb approach and started producing ketones. So that's when I made the switch switch into a ketogenic diet, which was 2 years ago. And, it changed my life. It got me my life back. It made me get into a place of health that I've never, ever been at before. And I feel amazing. And so now it's another case where I want to teach this to the masses. I want more people to know about the ketogenic diet as being an option for your health issues and something that you can do for the long term to not only heal what you have currently going on, but prevent things in the future. So obviously super passionate about it based on my own experience, but also what we hear, as people in the keto space on a daily basis of people's lives being saved and changed and all this stuff just by making this simple switch to their diet. So that's where I am now. And that's what I do. And I've gotten really focused on women's health in the ketogenic space because I am a woman and that was my experience. And I've found a lot of women that need a lot of help. So that's where I've landed.
That's so interesting. I wonder, because I saw yesterday in your post about the mold exposure, and I'm wondering, do you think you would have gone to keto even without that happening? Or was that really the big impetus for you to learn about keto?
I don't think I would have, I guess, definitely not then and maybe not ever. So it's so fascinating how, honestly, like the most traumatic point of my life and the lowest of the low. Like I cannot even tell you, I'd never experienced any sort of depression or anything like that until those years. And it was just a really scary and bad place for me for a little bit. And then to come out of it and have this life-changing health thing happen to me, but also just have that spur, like this new passion that I have and this new career that I have. It's just so funny, even just looking at like how life works, right? Like these terrible things, they always come out with like a good purpose behind it.
It's so true. Like our biggest pain and struggle, like I know for me, my biggest pain and struggle led to creating the career of my dreams and living the lifestyle of my dreams. Like it's amazing. Like you're saying that it came from that. I didn't realize that keto was kind of a protocol for mold exposure. So what's the connection there?
Well, it's actually, at least when I was looking into this 2 years ago, it really wasn't. But for me, so basically how it started, my doctor recommended that I start intermittent fasting in order to kind of get some of the inflammation down that was going through my body to just kind of speed along the process, because basically detoxing from the mold exposure in someone like me, and it is like a genetic predisposition to having this situation happen.
Wow.
But for me and people with this kind of genetic predisposition, you can't detox from it properly. So you have to use alternative methods, which actually are medications. But in the process, he was like, I think you should start intermittent fasting and let's see what happens. And then, I made that connection. Well, of course, I want to fast because my doctor's telling me to, but I want to do it safely and correctly. So I'm going to get into ketosis first.
Oh, cool.
And then start that fasting protocol after. Yeah, just to make sure that I was fat adapted and whatnot. So then once I started having these amazing success with keto and, I fasted for a while and then ended up it not being right for my body. But even just the success I had by producing ketones to feeling better as quickly as I was, which sometimes this detoxing can take years. Then my doctor, I started getting basically clients from him and now he makes that part of his protocol that people with toxic mold exposure go into ketosis too. So,
Wow.
it really, I think it just kind of spurred this idea. Yeah. And it's because, like I said, so the actual disease, well, I won't say disease, I guess the actual illness is chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So it's a chronic inflammatory response. So if you can reduce inflammation in your body, then a lot of these symptoms can be managed or handled a little bit better. So that was my thought process. And that's why my doctor recommended the fasting. So producing ketones, that's one of the greatest benefits is to reduce your inflammation.
Right. Reduce the insulin and then have the anti-inflammatory effect of the ketones. That's so neat. So is there a connection too with hormones? Because a lot of the symptoms that you had, they sound, almost like slow thyroid or other conditions.
Well, I think what happened, and this is what happens with a lot of people, regardless of what illness or what health issue you're dealing with, that health issue in itself is so stressful on the body, not to mention the rest of our lives that are just stress induced at this point because we live in 2018. So just, I think what happened in my case and what I see all the time in other people is just the health issue itself is an issue, but then the stress caused by that health issue becomes an even bigger issue. And so then you have this cortisol that's super low or just all over the place. Your adrenals are tapped out, which then translates into your hormones being all discombobulated and dysregulated. And that leads to hormonal imbalances that then, does also come up with even more symptoms or even make the symptoms you're currently experiencing even worse. So I know that that was the case for me because I was having, wonky menstrual cycles, absent menstrual cycles in some cases at some points of my life, really bad PMS, just things like that, that for me are symptoms of my hormones being out of balance. So I also had to work on that, just getting my body to de-stress, which I have found keto to be great for as well, as long as it's done with that intention.
One of my favorite things about as I've seen you present before, and you talk about how you came from kind of the bodybuilding, I don't know what you call it, like body showing competitions, like body competition world. And I'm curious, at the time you were kind of optimizing for like physical appearance, and like if you can share a little bit about that and, how different your diet is and how it's evolved from then until now.
Yeah, well, my diet, if anyone has ever seen, which I'm sure most people have at least seen a few pictures, what we're talking about is the competitions where you're in this like tiny, sparkly bikini on a stage. You have the most orange fake tan you could ever imagine. It's literally like paint that they paint on you. And you're not wearing very many clothes. So in front of a crowd of people. So your diet, when you are doing that, is focused on that. Like, what do I need to do to be on stage with a group of women in almost zero clothing? And so it's a lot different than now where it's like, I want to feel as good as I possibly can every single day of my life because I've been through a period of time where I felt terrible and I do not want to go back there. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to not do that. So for me now, my health and feeling great every single day is my number one and really only concern. So it's a totally different ballgame when you eat for aesthetics and when you eat for health. When I was eating for aesthetics, was not really eating, there were prepped for 14 weeks. And I would say half of that, I was eating probably under 1,000 calories a day. I was pretty much just eating vegetables and plain steamed vegetables and plain
chicken breast,
like baked chicken or fish, or I actually was, thank goodness, eating some, actually, this is interesting, especially for the keto community, the entire time, because I will say that when I was doing these figure competitions, I did do them as a quote unquote paleo style diet. So I was kind of eating real food. I was still having protein shakes and stuff, but like whey protein shakes, but I wasn't eating crap. So I did the entire time up until the day I got on stage. I had eggs and bacon for breakfast every morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would have eggs and bacon for breakfast every morning, but then the rest of the day would be, plain fish, plain chicken, plain veggies, and that's
Not
it.
a lot of fat.
So I was severely under eating. Yeah, definitely like very minimal fat, a lot of protein, like a lot of protein. So I was definitely having some blood sugar swings there and just undernourishing my body. And of course, in a short period of time, it worked, like that's the thing that why we can't let calories in versus calories die, even though it should. But I'm saying we as a community or just even as a society, we can't let that rest because in the short term, it does work until your body adjusts and your metabolism adjusts and figures that out. And then you kind of down regulate your metabolism and all that stuff that happens. And then it stops working, which was the case for me afterwards. But at the time, it did work.
Did you do calorie cycling as a part of that?
Again, this is back when I was in the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer. I didn't know what I know now, but yes, I did have quote unquote cheat days for some of that. And then as I got closer, like the last 4 to 6 weeks, I think I did not. And I just stayed low the whole time. Yeah.
What's the difference between being on stage in just a shiny, sparkly bikini and heels and presenting on stage?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I would say definitely way worse to obviously not have any clothes on and you're in these heels that are impossible to walk in. They're like plastic and clear and super high. So like my biggest fear—
I was going to say clear heels for sure.
My biggest fear that entire time was falling. Whereas, you know, when you get on stage to present, which I don't really get nervous anymore. I more so just get like excited. It's a kind of a different feeling, but you know, the biggest fear is like, am I going to forget how to speak? Like, are words not going to come out of my mouth? But yeah, and way more passion coming out of me now as a speaker who gets on stage to talk keto, as opposed to like, let me just show you how many muscles I've gained in the past 14 weeks. Like, that's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
You were looking so good. We were telling you at KetoCon, like you just look so, I mean, not just healthy and glowing, but also you were like arm goals. Like you look so fit, and you've obviously like maintained really good body composition over the years, even though you're not like necessarily competing anymore, and you're eating more for whole health, you know, as opposed to that. But you probably, what's your workout routine like now compared to then?
Yeah. So workouts are actually, they're different, but similar, I would say. But what is really important to note is that basically, so after I was done competing, that's kind of when things started falling apart, and I ended up getting really sick and all that stuff. And when I was really sick, I couldn't work out. You know, my workouts changed drastically because my health wasn't good enough to work out. And I had very low adrenal function. I had high inflammation. I was super fatigued. So I changed my workouts a lot, and I lost muscle mass, obviously. But what was really important for me to recognize in that time, and I was a personal trainer. I've been in the fitness industry for a long, long time. So I'm used to pushing my body. I'm used to working out every day as hard as I possibly can, all that stuff. And I had to totally change that mentality because my body was literally making me change that about myself. And instead I was going on walks and doing yoga and, you know, just spending way more time resting. So there was a really big shift that happened in that time frame for me about workouts, and that, you know, pushing yourself when your body's telling you not to is not the way to go, and will only lead to further damage, and oftentimes leads to injuries and things like that. But it also stalls your progress. So I learned all of this kind of through my own experimentation, again, of course. And so it's really just been because kind of, you know, I've been taking a long time to get back to feeling good. You know, it's just been within the past, I'd say, year that I feel like myself. And so I've been taking my time getting back to those types of workouts. And just within the past, I'd say 5-6 months, I gone back to working out at an intense level. And that's because I was waiting for my body to tell me that it was ready to do that it could handle that, and that I could recover, and that it was okay. So I learned so much about that, which is really important. And I don't think enough women, that, especially those that are used to working out, you know, and having this specific routine for their workouts, I don't think enough women think about that, or people in general, I guess, think about that when they're, you know, making the choice of how much or how little to do in the gym. But anyway, back to your original question. Yeah. So my workout routine now, I do a lifting class 4 days a week where we lift as much weight as we can. I'm a huge, huge advocate of women lifting heavy things. Like, again, as a former personal trainer, as someone, I mean, I've worked, my specialty was actually in senior citizen fitness. And I've seen the ramifications of women not having enough muscle mass and aging really quickly because of it. So, you know, for that reason, but then also just for body composition, like we're in the keto space. There's a lot of people that are in the keto space because they want to change their body composition. They think they want to lose weight, but you don't want to lose weight. You want to change your body composition. You want to lose fat. And the best way to lose fat is to gain muscle. It's that simple. It is like the easiest, most simple thing to do, but you have to actually do it, which means you have to lift heavy things. So that'll be my soapbox for the day. I promise I'll try not to get on another one, but you know, I'm getting really passionate about these things and I can't stop talking.
I love it though. I love it. And you have such a balanced way of looking at things, and especially, you know, making sure that women don't overly restrict their diets and like really eat in a balanced way. And I think your approach like definitely shows like in how great you're looking, and also just like how much energy you have and vitality and just health, right?
Yeah. And I think that that's, you know, the really important thing that I want to share and that I do hope to continue to share. Again, I'm a huge advocate for people, women, especially nourishing their bodies and not restricting their calories and their food intake. And it's really hard to do with keto, I know, but it makes a huge difference because I eat more food than I ever have. It's giving me the ability to work out more intensely, to work out more frequently, to push myself in the gym. So I'm able to lift more weight. I'm able to do things quicker and with more speed. And that is what's changing my body composition. So if you are someone who wants to lift weights or is lifting weights and you don't feel like you're getting stronger, you're probably just not eating enough food. Like you've got to fuel that. And I know that there's this whole thing about, ketones will fuel all that. So you don't need to eat because your body's going to use the fat on your body. No, you still need nutrients. You need macro and micronutrients. Like you can't just rely on this fat storage in your body. It's not how it works. Like it'd be great if that was how it works, but it's just not that simple. So I really, really want women to understand that eating less food is not the answer.
I think that's awesome.
Again, another soapbox.
Yeah, another soapbox. You can have as many as you want. That's what we're here for. We're here for you and your soapboxing. So and you have a show that is just based on keto for women. So how is the keto diet different, do you think, for women than men?
The biggest, most obvious reason is because we are women and we have hormones, and our hormonal patterns and what our hormones do on a second to second basis is actually fascinating to really study and learn what's going on in the female body every single stage of their, cycle. But it's a super intricate cycle, and it's one that can easily, and I think we all as women probably have had a time in our lives where we've noticed this. Our hormones can easily go awry when something in our lives go awry, or, obviously we get more stressed or something in our lives change. We change our diet. There's a great example, which is why we're here talking about keto and keto for women. But there's so many other things. And we as women are just very much a stressed case. We're stress cases for all of us, I think. Again, 2018 and just, a lot of us are moms, not me, but, some of you are moms but you have families and you have jobs and trying to juggle a ton of stuff. And then you also change your diet. And when that happens, that is very, very often a stressor on the body, especially when you are changing from, really anything. It could even be paleo or something very close to keto, but then you're making this actual transition to your metabolic function when you are going into keto, when you start producing ketones. And that transition does involve a little bit of a stress on your body. Now, for a lot of people and a lot of men in particular, no big deal. They have a stress. It's fine. We actually, as women, we handle stress differently in our brains than men do. So, they have a little bit of stress. Their bodies handle it. It's cool. No big deal. They're in ketosis in a few days and they're shedding weight like crazy. For women, and I think a lot of us listening relate to this, even if you have a man in your life that was their story, your story's not like that. So of course, the thing is your hormones. That's one of the factors, probably of many, that are keeping you from having that same impact that your husband or brother or whoever did. So it's really, really important to understand that this change, while great and while something I totally recommend, obviously, I have a whole business and podcast and everything about it, does need to be approached a little bit differently as a woman if you want to see the success and the health benefits that you're looking to see through keto. It's just those darn hormones.
Yeah. So what advice do you kind of give to women who are maybe new to keto and they want to do it for various reasons, like in getting started? What are some of the tips that you've learned, especially in doing your show? I mean, there must have been some that have really blown your mind.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have really kind of stuff we've already even talked about, but the first step is to eat enough food. Like I just mentioned, you've got to eat enough food because you could be even doing a standard American diet. We have a lot of people that come from Weight Watchers or doing HCG diet or whatever that then come to keto. And those past diets, if you're under eating, which most of them are, that's what diets typically are seen to be. If you're under eating and undernourishing your body and causing this metabolic slowdown to happen, then you're not going to see the results you're looking for. And it's a huge stressor on the body. Like if you are not fueling your body properly, just think about how stressful that is. Like that's a very stressful environment for your body to be in and trying to scavenge for energy all the time. So keep that in mind. And then if you change and actually eat enough food while transitioning into ketosis, it keeps it in this very safe place. Like we just want your body to know it's safe. And the best way to do that is to eat really good, colorful veggies, organic veggies, good, healthy, grass-fed, pasture-raised meats, all that stuff. So of course, quality of food is important, but making sure there's enough of that too. And then the other thing I recommend for women getting into ketosis is to take it slow. Again, we want to keep our bodies happy and safe. And so to go from even, whether it's standard American diet or Weight Watchers or even paleo or whatever, Sunday, and then Monday going straight keto and eating no carbs and, all the fat, that again is a very stressful place for your body to be, because all of a sudden it's like, wait, this glucose that we're used to burning for fuel and the way that we have for however many years is no longer available. There's nothing there. So again, you can see how that would be a stressful environment on the body until your body starts producing ketones. So if you take it slower and just give your body time to make that adjustment, week by week, I recommend people, women in particular, take, 3 to 4 weeks to get into a ketogenic diet, make that transition. It makes it just such a better, smoother process and a lot less keto flu symptoms as well. So that, and then the third thing I would say is make sure you're in ketosis. Because I see a lot of women and a lot of people in general now, especially because keto has blown up, that are like, oh, I eat keto and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you kind of eat maybe a little bit of a keto diet because you added some fat and decreased some carbs, but are you actually in ketosis? And most people aren't. So what I see is this state where you're just really kind of low carb, but you're not producing ketones. Again, it goes back to that place where your body is like, what is happening? I don't have a fuel source anymore, because that switch hasn't been flipped on for you to start producing ketones, because either your fat's not high enough, your carbs aren't low enough, your proteins, either too high or too low, whatever, or you have other things going on keeping you from getting into ketosis. So I think it's really important to actually test to make sure you are producing ketones as a woman, for sure. And just using it as a tool, not using it as anything to obsess about or start testing like 5 times a day, nothing like that, just to occasionally see what's going on.
Hey guys, just taking a really quick break to talk about the 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge. If you're interested in doing a ketogenic diet for yourself, it's a great place to start. I teach you everything about how to follow a keto diet to get yourself into nutritional ketosis, and it includes 28 days of meal plans. It comes with weekly shopping lists, how to interpret results, how to test yourself, a complete guide to getting started on keto. If you've been keto for a while and you're just not getting the results that you want to in terms of your health or fat loss, or you are brand new to keto, the 28-day challenge is a great option because it also comes with my free coaching and support in our members Facebook group. And you can post any questions that you have about the meal plans, about keto, and I am there supporting you. We have an amazing community in our group. I like to call it the happiest place on earth because everybody in there is so excited about following keto, about having found something that really works well for them. And everyone in there is just so kind, caring, generous, and supportive. And it's a really fun place to be and hang out. So if you'd like more info on it, you can find it at ketogenicgirl.com. And it's the 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge. And now
it's such a valuable tool that you can use to learn about your body. I think there's like extremes where you can be testing too much, but as a tool for feedback, I remember when I first started keto, I learned so many of the mistakes I was making where I thought I was doing a keto diet and then I'd wake up and have like really high blood sugar. I'm like, well, I ate a lot of protein yesterday, like way, way, way more than I needed to, or way more than for, getting into ketosis, especially at the beginning, or way overdid it with the carbs because I was doing, net carbs and I was subtracting like too much fiber. There were just things like that helped me learn where it can help at the beginning. But I find so many people, you've probably seen this a lot too, that over time, there's this intuitive eating that does start to kind of creep up on you.
Mm-hmm.
I had really lost it for so long, but there's something about, and you probably can speak to this too, in a hormonal regulation where you start to tune in so much to your body that intuitive eating becomes like an actual possibility for a lot of people. Like I know for myself, I never thought that I'd ever be able to just do that, where it comes along, and some of it may be from hormonal regulation.
Yes, definitely, for sure. It's so funny that you mentioned that. I'm glad you brought it up because that was one of the best things that happened to me with keto is I finally knew what it meant to be intuitive with my food. I had never, ever in my life, ever had this relationship with food freedom or anything like that because, again, I came from a place of, being in the fitness industry and working in a gym every day. It was like, I can't even explain it. It was so bad. But I was like timing my meals to eat every 2.5 hours, 6 times a day, eating the same exact thing every single day at every single hour. It just was a mess. And even when I switched to paleo, I was still kind of doing that. And I never had actually thought like, wait, what does my body want right now? Am I actually hungry or did I wait too long before I ate? Like just learning more about what clues your body is giving you as to what it needs and wants. Keto, that was one of the best things that happened to me by going into a ketogenic space for sure. And I do think, and this was another big thing that happened for me too, and I know it happens to a lot of women in this community as well, like the main reason why I think you have the ability to be intuitive with your food is because your cravings are diminished by so much because you've regulated your blood sugar. So when your blood sugar gets regulated and, you start having your insulin goes down and is regulated, that right there helps so much to calm the cravings that we've probably had for a while that are, whether they're for carbs or whatever, it still is a blood sugar response quite often. So I think that really, really helps just to stabilize the blood sugar, which keeps those cravings away. So then you're not like having these, basically it's almost like another thing talking to you, telling you what you want to eat instead of you actually listening to your own body. So you take that away and then you can actually tap into what sounds good to eat for breakfast, what sounds good to eat for lunch. Do I need a snack or not? Instead of just, listening to some other like sugar dragon or something. So I think that, and I know that helped with me. I've always had a sweet tooth until keto too. So that really helped for me as well. But yeah, it definitely also relates to our hormones as a female too. And, really any sort of hormonal imbalance, whether it's estrogen dominance or PCOS or just low overall hormones, which I see all the time, even just having adrenal dysfunction with like high or low cortisol, any of those things do have a connection to blood sugar too, but they also have a connection to cravings and to even emotional eating, things like that. So there's all this stuff that happens when our hormones are out of balance that, of course, could potentially prevent this intuitive eating to happen. But then once you get into ketosis and once all of these things start regulating, which they will, if keto is done properly for female hormones, then you start to see all that balance out too. So it's all just so funny how it all kind of fits together.
I love that. And speaking of that, what does keto look like for you on a daily basis these days?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question and really interesting and not something that I've even talked about on my podcast yet. I keep forgetting to talk about. My keto has...
Oh, nice. We're getting the scoop here.
Inside scoop. Yeah, so my keto has changed a little bit in the past few months because of my workouts. So my workouts have become much more intense. It's also summer here, and summer in Boulder means like just constantly being outside and trail running and hiking and just doing all these really fun outdoor activities. So I'm just moving a lot more than I do in the winter, obviously. And then, of course, adding this heavy lifting to my workout routine over the past few months too. So like I said, I'm eating more food than I ever have, but I'm also adding in carbs on a more regular basis. I don't do it with any sort of, I'm not someone that does or promotes doing it on any sort of schedule. I just kind of, again, use that intuitive eating that I now have to let me know when my body wants carbs and needs carbs, because it's just like all of a sudden, because on a normal basis, because I've been keto for so long, I crave fats and proteins. And then when I start seeing like a sweet potato at the store, or some berries or something, then they stick out to me. It's for me, my body's way of kind of signaling, hey, you might need some of that this week. So then I'll grab some strawberries and add a few to my day for a few days or whatever, however it works out. But so I use that as my radar, but I am not someone, at least for me personally, that needs to stay super low carb because of blood sugar issues or health issues or anything like that. In fact, it's helping with me feeling my best by adding carbs on occasion and doing it more frequently now because of my activity level. It also, because of my activity level, I stay in ketosis. Like I have no problem adding carbs and staying in ketosis, which again is very individual, which you and we talked about that at KetoCon. It's all very individual. So yeah, so that's what I do now. I still keep my fats high. I have also started incorporating more protein, again, for that increase in activity level. And because I'm working on building up the muscle that I lost while being sick. So I find that doing a higher protein, slightly higher carb, maybe a teeny bit less fat is working for me right now. But again, it changes. That wasn't the case for me even in, 6 months ago. Changes all the time.
I love that. And I think that's one of the things I love so much about what you call your talks, like how to find your version of keto. I know that's something that you emphasize because we all have different, not only health and history and all that and body composition, but also, we just all have such different lifestyles, like in terms of activity level and workouts and all that. And the fact that, like you said, it's summertime and you're out and about. By the way, my husband's really jealous that you're in Boulder summer. I told him we were recording today. He's like, Boulder summer.
I know, it's the best. It's so beautiful.
He misses it. Like you said, and we were talking a bit before the podcast, how Colorado is like the most fit state in the US. I think people are so active, so outdoorsy with the trails and the hiking and all that. And, that's going to be really different than someone who's like in winter in Australia right now, who's like not, going outside much and maybe not working out. So yeah, I love that you're adapting it and adjusting it and, just making those, adaptations, especially because you're working out so much. And I think it's cool how your brain is like filtering in different things for you, like some like strawberries are looking extra shiny today.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody's will do that too. That's the beauty of it is, and it's something I love to promote is just listening and doing the keto that works for you. So my keto may not look like, it definitely doesn't look like your keto right now, Vanessa, with all meat. Our ketos look very different, but that doesn't mean that one of us is doing it wrong or differently or whatever. We've just found and we're finding and continuing to explore what works best for our bodies. And everyone should be doing that. There's no reason for you to make your plate look exactly like mine. It should look like yours. And all I did was have a change in what I was doing and used my body's cues to let me know that I also needed to change what was on my plate, basically. It's quite simple.
And so cool that you can see that you're still in ketosis, but you probably don't even need to test. Like you can just feel when you are and when you aren't.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The longer you're in it, you're like, I know for me, I feel like kind of weird, like hangover feeling or just like,
me too.
That fogginess. And
yeah, I feel like I went out the night before, even if I got like 12 hours of sleep. That's how I feel out of ketosis. Yeah.
Now, do you follow like certain kind of ranges of macronutrients at all? Or are you just like really more intuitive right now?
Yeah, I actually haven't ever. I never have used any sort of calculator or tracker or app or anything. All I did when I started keto, because when I was paleo, I already trended towards a more high fat, low carb paleo style diet anyways. So all I did was add like a few servings of fat to what I was used to doing. And I took out the sweet potatoes. And that was literally all I did. And that's all I needed to do for my body to get into ketosis. So, and then once I was there, I just stayed there and just basically, and this is what I promote as well, because I don't like people using apps forever. I think it has its purpose for a short period of time, maybe while you're learning a little bit more, but then use that information to see kind of what your plate looks like. Like you've built this perfect keto plate for you. It keeps you in ketosis. It helps you get the nutrients that you need. It keeps you satisfied. So you have this plate and then just kind of fashion your plate after that on most meals for most occasions, which, with an occasional treat or higher carb, lower fat plate in there or more protein or whatever occasionally, if that's what you want to do. But you have this baseline of like, this is the style of plate that works best for me. So I just do this most of the time. And like it really, for most people, can be that easy to actually get you into ketosis and keep you there by more so just looking at what your food looks like and doing that, as opposed to needing to start calculating all your food, because like that for me is not reality. That's not life. That's not how we should be living life. Like food is so enjoyable and fun and good. And if we have to take out our calculator when we're out to dinner with our friends and family, in order to make sure that we can eat that, like no one should be living life that way. That's just not, I don't agree with that. So I'd really love people to get back to this place of food enjoyment over food as a math equation. It makes a world of difference.
Right. I agree with that. And I think that all these tools are so helpful at the beginning to help you make the transition from a very different way of eating, like especially if you're coming from high carb, like no fat kind of thing, you know, where like for myself, I was so afraid of fat that having the macros laid out for me, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like I'm going to do the fat bombs and coconut oil, I'm just going to eat fat. I'm going to embrace fat. And then over time, I've like kind of swung, you know, back from that end of the pendulum a little bit back towards the middle. But it's just so helpful at the beginning when you have no idea what you're doing to like have certain tools, but then as you go on longer. Now, on that point, what are some of your best tips for women? Like you talked about doing keto properly for optimizing healing and hormone function. So what does that look like for you and for women who are looking to do that?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much basically wrapping up everything we just talked about, because it's finding the keto that works for you, and it's listening to your own body and doing what your body needs. So of course, you know, eating enough food and like the stuff we talked about, eating enough food, eating enough fat, making sure you're in ketosis, taking time, all that stuff. But then also translating that and taking it and listening to how you feel. So use your body's cues as a sign that things are going well or they're not going well, because your body's going to tell you every single second of every single day how you're doing. You would just have to choose to listen. So if you are going through keto, maybe you transition too fast, or maybe you aren't actually in ketosis, or maybe you aren't eating enough food, then you are going to not feel good. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel weak. Your workouts are going to be tanking. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to have cravings. You're going to be hungry in between meals. Your hormones are going to go out of whack. You might miss a cycle or have worse PMS or, you know, bad cramps, those kinds of things. And you might be just like cranky, mood swings, that kind of stuff. So basically all the things that we're trying to heal with keto, if you aren't doing keto right for your body, that's how you're going to feel. You're going to not feel like it's working, right? But it's not that it's not working. It's just that you haven't found the version that's right for you. So maybe you do need to increase your fat. Maybe you need to decrease your protein. Maybe you need to increase your protein. But Vanessa, you can't tell them what to do. I can't tell them what to do because I don't know. I'm not them. I'm not their body. We can't give them this advice because we don't know. You have to. And this is my whole thing, is I want to empower women to take charge of their bodies and their health. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to listen and take those cues, try something else, and then see how that goes. So if you are having, you're just tanked, you have no energy, try increasing your fat, try increasing the amount of food you're eating, give that, you know, a few days and see if you feel better. If you have more energy, well, then there you go. That's what you needed to do. So it's all about experimentation, but you know, it's really, we have to get away in the keto community, I think, so much from watching what other people do and doing that and taking that as truth. And instead, let's all just support each other in finding the path that's right for them, you know, for each individual person. So that's what I really, really want women to do, because that's when you have tapped into your body like that and you've learned what works for you and what doesn't, that is when your body will really start healing and things will really start coming together. And just really quickly as a side note, and I swear I'll stop talking, but one of the biggest things, and this happened in my community today, and so I had to remind everybody again, but of course, one of the biggest things why a lot of women come to the keto community is weight loss, right? So that's huge. However, there is a case where if you're doing a ketogenic diet for health reasons and really working on getting healthy, there's a chance that you might not lose weight as quickly as some women and definitely some men, or you might even gain a little bit at first. And what I want people to know is that in itself is another symptom similar to like fatigue, similar to like wonky hormones, similar to mood swings. That is just another way of your body showing you that something is off. It's a symptom of something deeper, always.
Right. I think that's a case for weight in general. Like, it's a symptom. It's like an indicator that something...
There's never been a case of weight gain or inability to lose weight and having unhealthy, unnecessary weight on someone's body without there being something else going on. That's never been the case.
Right.
Because when your body's healthy, it doesn't want to hold on to excess weight either.
Mm-hmm. I just love what you were saying right now, just about how the keto rules should be more just guidelines. Like, they shouldn't be like these strict ways of doing things where if you're not doing them everything by the book, that you're somehow failing at keto. You know, they're there as guidelines and not as rules and regulations. You know, these things can help you to find that optimal health for yourself or your keto, as opposed to being like, you're either doing keto properly or you're not. You know, one or the other. And that's awesome. I love that you brought that up. So a couple of questions just based on your philosophy and approach to keto. What's your take on like intermittent fasting and any kind of fasting at all, and time restricted eating? Do you still do any of that? You know, I know you mentioned you did some like to accelerate your detoxification.
Yeah. So I have done a few rounds of fasting in my healing journey because I do think that fasting has some great, amazing health benefits. I really do. And I think it really is beneficial. It definitely helped me quite a bit, but I did so with a cost. It hurt some other parts of my health in the process, specifically my hormones. My hormones did get back out of balance after they were in balance. And then I started fasting and kind of messed them up again. My body's very sensitive to stress. So that was a stress that was too much for my body. I started losing hair and all that stuff. So I knew it wasn't right for me. So what I have seen, because I've worked obviously with thousands of women on ketosis, is that it can be very beneficial for women to fast once their body is ready. If you take on fasting too soon, if you're still dealing with adrenal issues, hormonal imbalances, thyroid dysfunction, anything like that, which is a huge chunk of the female population right there, if you fall into that category, fasting is going to probably cause more harm than good at the start until you've really worked on those issues and used keto to do so. Then once that all starts coming into balance, then fasting would probably come more naturally to you anyway, and could be a really great tool for you to use on occasion. So that's the thing. I think fasting is great, but it has to be for the right person. And I think that there are a lot of women jumping the gun a little bit too soon and finding out that it actually has made things a little bit worse for them down the road. So,
right.
But I think it's great. I personally don't do it anymore. I do work out fasted, but I probably have maybe like a 14-hour fast day, kind of overnight, but that's nothing in comparison to what most people do in the keto community, but that's what works for me.
Right. Yeah. I just love
I like
the
breakfast.
idea. Yeah. Breakfast is awesome. And especially keto breakfast and how easy it is to make breakfast keto. I love the idea of time restricted eating personally, just, fasting between your meals, I think can make such a massive difference, as opposed to, especially if you're someone like me who's like always sipping on like low calorie drinks and fat-free things between meals and not letting the body have a break from insulin. And just not eating between your meals can have such a huge impact. And having a daily eating window where you're like, okay, it's like sunset, like I'm going to not eat until the next meal in the morning, because that just like enables you to be so aligned like with your circadian rhythms and all these things. And, it doesn't have to be like no food for days on end and like so extreme, just.
Right. Like you can never have breakfast again.
Yeah. I've got some fast questions here for you, about 10 of them. So I'm going to ask you one or the other. So salad or steak?
Salad.
Fasting or no fasting?
No fasting.
Testing or no testing?
For me or for others?
I guess you could answer for both, like for one and the other.
Okay. For me, no testing. For others, testing.
Okay. Carb ups or no carb ups?
Carb ups.
Supplements or no supplements?
Supplements, definitely.
Advocate or silent follower?
Advocate. Yes.
Grass-fed or grain-fed?
Definitely grass-fed.
I expect that answer from everyone in keto. And then Amber O'Hearn, who's a carnivore, she said grain because she likes the marbling on steak. So I need to look into that.
No. Oh my gosh. I don't agree with that. Yeah, because
it's interesting.
I won't get into it, but yeah, I would. The quality of the fat is just as important as the quality of the meat, and changes just as much between grain-fed and grass-fed. I'll just say that. So it's a much higher quality of fat.
Right, because then you have the toxins stored in the fat. Is that?
Yeah, and it just changes the ratio too from omega-3s to omega-6s.
Right. So a little digression there. Rare, medium rare, well done.
Medium rare.
Fried, baked, steamed, or grilled?
Grilled, definitely.
Grilled. Possibility of eating high carb again in the future, possible or never?
Never.
Keto for life or keto for a few more years?
Keto for life.
I love it. I was going to ask you what your main message is, but I think that we really got that across. But who?
I think I promoted that pretty well over the past hour.
What's your main message?
We're not quite sure what you are focused on, Shawn.
Who inspires you? Like, who are some of your role models or one role model?
Ooh, that's a good question. I really think as a overall, just not to have one particular person and just to continue on the keto theme, I really find all of the stories of just serious health issues and what people have gone through, and then to see that reversed with keto, like even just the stuff we heard at KetoCon, how inspiring was that? Just to see those people and hear those stories. I think just to stay in the keto world, I think all of us should be really inspired by the changes that happen and the people that take this on to really have these major health benefits. I find all of that so inspiring, those people so inspiring, especially when they share their stories, and they're like pretty intense stories.
I feel on the exact same page, because it takes so much courage to change, and also to do things that people around you are like, what are you doing? Like, are you eating all that fat? And like, just, it takes courage to change and also risk failing. And I feel the exact same way. That's the community is so inspiring. And I was going to ask you what your highlights were from KetoCon, but I think that's probably like your highlight was this community and stories.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, hanging out with you all weekend. That was so fun.
Yeah, I know. That was the best.
So fun to actually hang out in person. And, maybe someday we'll actually be neighbors.
I know. It's actually quite a possibility. Colorado.
Yes.
Relocation, we're looking every day, and I need to spend more time in Boulder. We're definitely coming there in September. And I love how strong the nutritional community is in that state. It's not just fitness. It's everything. Nutrition and all that culture is awesome. It seems like Boulder kind of is really concentrated part of that too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, every single restaurant you go into, there's a gluten-free menu, and, they use the highest quality, organic vegetables from the market. And so, yeah, it's such, that's one of the biggest pulls I have to this place, is just being able to go out to eat and eat whatever and not, be concerned with the quality or am I being fed gluten unknowingly, that kind of stuff. So it's so fun.
It's so funny. I mean, the US is so much better with that kind of stuff, I find, than at restaurants than Europe is. And it's so funny when we were in Austin and the three, you and I and Leanne went for lunch, and we all had our own off the menu things. And I know we were at kind of a keto paleo-ish place, but still I found that for every restaurant, the waiter, waitress didn't even blink. They were just you would like that and modified how and this and that. And here it's people go into full panic when you order off the menu. They just don't like to do anything that's, unusual. So I love that about being in the US and Colorado. It's it's such a relief. When we're at KetoCon.
Yeah. I pretty much always make up my own menu item. I'm like, I want this,
Right.
but I don't want this, but add this. And and people are like, sure, no problem. Yeah, it's great.
No problem. I love it. I love it. And isn't Chipotle from, is it Boulder or near there?
Yeah,
Or was that
Denver. Denver, I think. Yeah, is where it started.
It's the home of Chipotle. That's all you need to know. If you could put a billboard out there for everyone to say, what would it say? Everyone to see. What would it say?
It would say, be happy anyways. That's kind of one of my mottos. Yeah. Because I'll expand on it because why not? Just, of course, my main goal in life is to just like love every moment of every day and just be happy as much of the time as possible. Now, of course, it's not always easy because there's things going on, things in your life or maybe your body, your health, your weight, whatever. But we get so stuck on thinking about that stuff that we forget that we're supposed to be living our lives and enjoying our lives because it's a very short time that we have on this earth. So, the reminder to just, that stuff, it's fine, but it's more important for you to, focus on all the good stuff going on and be as happy as possible. And it's going to work itself out. Actually, it's going to work itself out even quicker if you're happy.
I love that so much. I have to tell you, my recent motto has been, I choose to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it sounds very similar.
Yeah.
And I read it in the Untethered Soul, and they're like, so many of us think that we're choosing happiness, and yet no, we're choosing like focusing on what's stressing us out that day or repeating patterns that make us like feel like a victim or, there's so many other things going on. And I had to ask myself, like, am I actually choosing to be happy? And I'll do it all the time now. Like Pete and I had a date the other night and I was like, I choose to be happy. And then I was like, I'm leaving my phone at home. And it was like, I had the happiest night. We had such a great time together. And it was just asking that question where my body even just answered it on its own. It's like, yeah, you're going to be happier if you leave your phone at home like for a night. Like, so I love that. I love that they're so similar too.
I know. It's so important. It really is.
Now, what are you the most excited about right now? I know you've been working on some awesome programs and new kind of like a bit of a new launch.
Yeah. So, my class just launched again, but I do that every other month, the Fat Burning Female Project. I do that every other month. So there's almost always a launch going on, I feel like.
Nice.
But it's good. It's for a good reason. And we always get a good group of ladies. It's limited. So that's why I do it more often because the spots are limited in the class. Yeah. There are some good things in the works that I'm really excited to be working on over the summer and just kind of brainstorming over the summer, but definitely hopefully expanding my reach to more people and getting more people. I can't really say much, but I'm trying to say as much as I can and just getting more people access to help, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great mission.
Lots of exciting things on the way. And then, of course, always the podcast is exciting all the time.
Yeah, so tell us about that. I mean, I know most people who are listening in the keto space probably know of your show, but where can people follow you more if they haven't already?
Yeah, definitely. So my website is shawnmynar.com, just my first and last name. That's also where I'm at on Instagram and Facebook. So you can follow me over there. I do lots of social media stuff. And then I do have the Keto for Women show. It's a podcast. It's on iTunes or literally anywhere that you listen to anything. It's even on Spotify. So you can really listen to it anywhere. It's on YouTube as well. And it is obviously for women, but I have found that there are a lot of men who listen either for the women in their lives or just because they're getting information too, or they are a practitioner or something like that. So lots of good chats over there. And what else? Yeah, that's it. That's me. And then the Fat Burning Female Project, which is you can find out on my website. Like I said, you can do a self-study option that's always available, or you can join an actual group that runs 6 times a year.
That's so cool. And so many great resources. Thank you for creating them and for everything you do, all your contributions, especially for keto for women in this space. Specifically, you bring so much knowledge and passion and drive. So it's amazing to have that part of our community. And it's just been so fun getting to know you more and getting to hang out, and hopefully we'll get to do more in Denver maybe in September.
Definitely September when you're visiting for sure.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been really fun.
hope you guys had fun listening to today's interview with Shawn Mynar. I'll be putting some of the links that she mentioned in the show notes so you can go ahead and check those out. But it was such a blast chatting with Shawn today, and I look forward to having her on again in the future for more Women for Keto chat. It's so great getting to speak with her, and her passion for keto and women in the space really comes through. So such a huge pleasure to have her on with us today. If you are interested in getting started with a ketogenic diet and you don't know where to start, check out the 20-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge at ketogenicgirl.com. It comes with my support and coaching, 28 days of meal plans, shopping lists, guide to testing, understanding keto from start to finish, and it's really for both beginners and for people who have been doing keto for a while. It's for both women and for men. We have both in our group, and our challenge community is so incredible. It's the happiest place online, and I absolutely love working with and getting to work with so many people on their keto adaptation, getting into ketosis, whether it's for fat loss, for optimizing your body composition, for health, for healing, for disease prevention. All of those things are such great reasons to try out a ketogenic diet for yourself. So check it out, 20-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge at ketogenicgirl.com. And until the next episode, have a fat-fueled rest of your day.